In a dark corner of the galaxy far from the center of power, there was a war that never ended. The Creel Empire had fought for 100 years against every species they met. They were smart, fast, and cruel. They won battles through fear and fire. But fear was never enough for them. They wanted to build something more, something that would not just destroy bodies. They wanted to break minds too, so their scientists worked in silence in the deep ice caves of their homeworld. They studied every kind of matter, every poison, every acid. They tested on prisoners, they tested on animals, they tested on each other. One day, they found it a liquid, clear and clean. It had no color, no smell, and no warning signs. But it was deadly. It was called Hydrex 9. The first time they used it, they tested a single drop. It fell on a metal plate, and the metal melted like snow and fire. They tried it on armor, and it burned through. They dropped it on a living creature, and the screams never stopped. The liquid spread fast, but left no marks after death. It was like water, but it killed like a god. They laughed in their labs. They danced with joy. Finally, they had what they wanted, a weapon that looked harmless but brought terror. They packed it into glass bombs and sprayed it into air vents. They poured it into rivers and lakes. They made mist clouds of it and let them drift over cities. Whole planets went silent. No one knew what was happening at first. There was no fire, no blast, no sound, only stillness. Armies fell, civilians vanished, even ships in orbit lost contact and were found empty. The Creel never explained what they used. They just smiled with sharp teeth and told stories of ghosts, of whispers, of silent death. Other races tried to stop them, but how do you fight what you cannot see? How do you stop something that kills? By touch. The Galactic Council held meetings. They argued, they shouted, they begged. The Creel ignored them. Hydrex 9 was not just a weapon, it was a message. No one is safe, no one is strong except the humans. The first contact with humans came late. Earth was far away from trade routes. It was not rich, it was not old, it was not feared. But when their ships appeared and when their soldiers landed, things began to change. The humans were different. They looked soft, but they fought hard. They made jokes during battles. They sang songs in the dark. They helped others, even when it brought no gain. And they studied the galaxy with wide eyes and wild ideas. At first, the Creel did not care. They saw humans as weak and simple, one more race to crush. So they brought Hydrex 9 to a human colony. It was called Brightfield, a green world with oceans and cities and farms. The Creel dropped 5 containers of Hydrex 9 into the water systems. They watched from orbit, waited for screams, waited for silence. But it never came. The colony stayed online. The people kept working. They drank water, they swam in rivers, and nothing happened. The Creel thought it was a mistake. Maybe the mix was wrong. Maybe the air had changed the fluid. So they sent spies. What they found shocked them. The humans had filtered the water, but not to remove the poison. They filtered it to make it taste better. Than they bottled it and sold it. They gave it names like Arctic Thunder and Glacier Blast. Children drank it at school. Soldiers drank it before battle. Old men drank it with meals. They thought it was just a new kind of drink, and in a way it was. The Creel sent a warning to the Galactic Council. They said the humans were hiding something. They claimed Earth had secret tech. The Council sent observers. Scientists from 10 worlds visited the human colony. They took samples, ran tests, compared results, and every test said the same thing. Hydrex 9 was harmless to humans. Not just harmless, it helped them. Their bodies broke it down with ease. Their organs filtered it without pain. Some even said it gave humans extra energy, faster reflexes, sharper senses. The news spread across the stars. Races that once feared Hydrex 9 now feared the ones who drank it. The Creel lost power, and one day their greatest weapon was now a joke. But not to the humans. They did not laugh. They did not mock. They simply asked, can we have more? They built factories. They studied the liquid. They made new flavors. Some used it for sports. Some used it for medicine. Some even tried to cook with it. And when alien guests refused to drink it, the humans shrugged and poured another glass. What scared the stars refreshed the humans, and that was only the beginning. In the Galactic Council, debates burned like suns. Should humans be stopped? Should Hydrex 9 be destroyed? Should there be rules? But what rules can stop a species that drinks death and calls it water? The Creel watched in silence. Their empire shook. They had never known fear until now, because fear is not just about weapons. It is about not understanding, and nothing not Hydrex 9, not where not history could explain how humans did what they did. The galaxy held its breath, and the humans took another sip. The Creel High Command could not believe the reports that kept coming in from Brightfield. The numbers did not lie. The humans had not only survived the release of Hydrex 9, they had absorbed it, processed it, and turned it into a daily drink. The Creel Admiral Vesh looked at the screen in front of him. It showed human children laughing and splashing in a river. that had once been soaked with pure Hydrex 9, he watched a human woman fill a cup from a bubbling spring and hand it to her. Child, he saw men and women packing the water into small bottles with colorful labels. They were smiling, they were relaxed. There was no fear, there was no pain, there was no death. This was impossible. It had to be a trick, it had to be fake. Admiral Vesh ordered a deep investigation. He sent his personal scout ship, the Black Ember, to orbit above Earth. He chose one of his best agents, Krellin, a silent, skilled infiltrator trained in over 40 languages and known for blending into any society. Krellin took a small pod and entered Earth's atmosphere at night. He landed near a human city that pulsed with lights and strange music. He activated his cloaking suit, took the form of a human male with short brown hair and simple clothing. He walked among them, he listened, he watched, he learned. What he found made no sense. The liquid was everywhere, in stores, in vending machines, in backpacks, in kitchens, in training rooms. Even in medical centers, humans drank it before sleep, after sleep, before fights, during work, after work, and more than that, they loved it. They treated it like a gift. They said it gave them focus, calm, even strength. Krellin recorded everything. He took samples. He interviewed humans under the name Dr. Kim. They welcomed him. They offered him drinks. They shared stories. And again, he heard the same words. It tastes clean. It helps my body. I like it cold. Back on the ship, Krellin sent all the data to the Creel labs. The scientists reviewed it with growing horror. Every chemical scan showed it was still Hydrex 9. It had not changed. Its structure was untouched. Its energy signature was identical to the original weapon. And yet in a human's hands, it was no longer a weapon. Admiral Vesh stared at the wall of the command chamber. His claws scratched the steel table. How could this be? Their greatest power now served as a human refreshment. It was not only insulting, it was terrifying. He called an emergency session of the Council of War Generals, and leaders from across the Creel territories gathered by screen and signal. They shouted, they argued. Some said to attack Earth directly, others said to retreat and prepare new weapons. A few whispered the unthinkable, that the humans were evolving faster than the Creel, and that maybe, just maybe, they had already won without firing a shot. Meanwhile, in a distant part of the galaxy, on board a large diplomatic ship from the Galactic Council, Captain Mora of the Earth Federation was sharing drinks with alien ambassadors. She was tall, her skin was pale from space travel, her eyes sharp with knowledge, her voice calm like a deep river. One of the Drex guards noticed a strange container on the table. It was small, clear, filled with glowing blue liquid. He scanned it, and his body tensed. He recognized it instantly. He had seen it destroy an entire village in the last war. It was Hydrex 9. Panic spread. The Drex soldiers raised their weapons. The avian diplomats screamed for shields. The Jarn medic activated his purifier field, but Captain Mora, still smiling, picked up the container and drank it slowly in front of everyone. Silence filled the room. The only sound was the hum of the ship and the slow beating of alien hearts. They waited for her to fall, to scream, to melt, but nothing happened. She licked her lips, sighed, and said, tastes a bit sweet this time. Chaos erupted. The ambassadors demanded answers. What was this liquid? How was it safe? Why were humans drinking it? Captain Mora remained calm. She opened her case and pulled out 10 more bottles. She passed them around, not to harm, but to teach. She explained that Hydrex 9, the weapon that killed millions, was now just a beverage on Earth. She told them how human bodies reacted to it, how it broke down in the gut, how it passed through harmlessly. She shared studies, blood reports, medical scans. All clear, all clean. The ambassadors listened in silence. They realized something deep and disturbing. Weapons built by fear, by death, by science beyond control had no meaning in the hands of humans, because humans did not fear them. They adapted, they changed, they found a way to turn danger into survival, poison into power. Words spread quickly. By the next solar cycle, every major station had heard the news. Aliens whispered in fear and awe. They no longer asked what humans could survive. They asked what humans could not survive. In the darkest corners of trade ports, smugglers tried to sell fake versions of Hydrex 9. To make money in noble courts, scholars began writing books with titles like The Human Paradox and The Species That Drinks Death. On the homeworld of the Flarn, a peaceful race known for singing flowers, children now played a game called Drink Like a Human, where they pretended to sip dangerous things and laugh back. On Earth, production increased. Hydrex 9 was now renamed Hydrofuel. It came in 6 flavors: Blue Frost, Crystal Fire, Lunar Lime, Solar Berry, Zero Gravity, and Original Strike. The Bottles had warning labels not for non-human consumption, do not export, without permit, use responsibly, may cause panic in certain alien species. Still people bought it, they lined up, they posted videos of themselves drinking it with funny faces and big cheers. It became part of the culture, part of the legend, and behind it all was a quiet understanding that something had changed in the balance of power, not because humans made better weapons, not because they had stronger ships, but because they could do something no other race could. They could take fear and drink it. In the main chamber of the Galactic Council, the walls were made of silver stone and deep crystal. The room shimmered with light from 10 stars outside the viewing dome. It was a place of order, a place of law, a place where war and peace were debated by the oldest minds in the galaxy. That day the chamber was silent. The delegates sat in curved rows, each seat marked by a glowing sigil, each figure wrapped in robes of their homeworld. The Drex were there, tall and armored with red scales across their necks. The avian were present, too thin, with glassy wings that pulsed in rhythm. Even the Creel had sent a speaker, a rare thing for a species that preferred fear over dialogue. In the center stood Captain Mora, human representative, calm still, holding a bottle in her hand. She had just taken a long sip in front of everyone, a clear glowing liquid that none could mistake. Hydrex 9, the substance that had ended civilizations, the liquid that had melted bones and metal alike, the most feared weapon in galactic history. And she drank it like tea, not a cough, not a wince, not a scream, just a gentle breath and a single word: refreshing. Every ambassador froze, some clutched their robes, others scanned her body with hidden sensors. One Drex guard even reached for his blade before his commander growled and pulled him back. Captain Mora raised her eyes. Her voice did not rise, it remained soft, even steady. She said she understood their fear. She said she respected the pain this liquid had caused. She said she did not drink to mock them. She drank to show them the truth. That truth, she said, was that humans were not like other species. They had evolved in strange ways, survived strange places on Earth. Nature was both friend and enemy. Their oceans held crushing darkness. Their forests had beasts with teeth like swords. Their skies carried storms that could break mountains. And through it all, humans adapted. They did not just survive, they studied, they changed, they grew. One avian diplomat whispered to his aide, asking if this was a trick. The aide shook her head. Their scans were clear. Captain Mora was alive, healthy, normal. Another delegate asked how many humans could do this. Captain Mora replied, all of them. She said every human body handled Hydrex 9 the same way, with ease, with balance, with power. The room shifted, the weight of history pressing down. For centuries, Hydrex 9 had been a ghost that haunted the galaxy. Mothers told stories of it to frighten their children. Generals whispered about it in fear. Planets had banned the name from being spoken, and now a human had turned it into a drink, bottled it, named it, marketed it, sold it with colorful labels and fun flavors. It made no sense, but it was real. The Creel speaker rose slowly, his voice cold, sharp, like ice breaking under pressure. He accused the humans of theft, of breaking science, of poisoning their own people for power. Captain Mora listened, then opened her case. She took out 10 bottles, each one sealed, each one labeled, each one glowing. She placed them on the council table one by one. She invited each delegate to test them, not to drink, but to examine, to scan, to study. She said nothing more. She stood still as machines hummed, as lights flickered, as minds tried to make sense of what could not be made sense of. The avian team confirmed the structure. Hydrex 9 untouched, unchanged. The Drex team found no added chemicals, no blockers, no treatments. The Creel team tried to argue, but their data matched the rest. It was true, the weapon had not been weakened. The humans were simply immune. Captain Mora explained why in basic words, with clear voice, no pride, no fear. She told them about human stomach acid, about enzymes that broke down toxic bonds, about cells that flushed harmful materials without damage. She showed images of Earth's water sources, lakes full of minerals, rivers filled with metals, rain that carried ash, and still humans drank, grew, lived. She showed pictures of food, spices that burned, roots that stung, drinks that foamed and boiled, and still humans laughed, feasted, thrived. It was not just biology, it was culture, a drive to test limits, a hunger to learn, a habit of walking where others feared to look. The council sat in heavy silence, not because they doubted her, but because they believed. Hera, single Creel guard, whispered, then what else can they drink? No one answered. Captain Mora gave her final words. She said humans did not seek war, they did not wish to frighten. They offered trade, they offered peace, they offered knowledge. But she added, if war came, if weapons rose, then humans would not fear. Because humans by nature turn fear into strength, she bowed. She left the room, stayed quiet long after she was gone. Later, the delegates returned to their ships, their minds spinning with new thoughts, new questions, new fears. In private rooms across the galaxy, leaders held secret talks. Should we ally with humans? Should we stop them? Should we copy them? Should we fear them? On a small moon station, a young mechanic named Tilvy bought a bottle of hydrofuel. She had heard the stories. She wanted to see if it was real. She opened the bottle, smelled the air. It was sweet, cold. She touched the tip of her tongue to the liquid. Her mouth burned, her eyes watered. She dropped the bottle and fell to the ground, shaking. She survived, but only barely. It was true, only humans could drink it. The stars learned fast. Shops began selling fake bottles. Posters showed images of humans with glowing eyes and bottles in their hands. Songs were written about the drinkers of death. New myths were born, and in every spaceport you could see the human stalls, bright signs, bold letters, hydrofuel power. In every drop, only for humans. Other species walked past, some stared, some shivered, some whispered, but none drank, because now the galaxy knew something it had never known before, that the most dangerous thing in the universe was not a weapon, not a fleet, not a secret. It was a species that saw a weapon, took a sip, and smiled. Across the galaxy, from frozen moons to burning suns, from orbiting cities to shadowed ruins, the question grew louder with every passing day. Why didn't it work? Why didn't Hydrex 9 destroy the humans like it destroyed every other species before them? It made no sense to the minds of the old races. The Creel had spent entire centuries testing this weapon. They had erased 13 colonies with it, dissolved starships filled with living soldiers, turned oceans into death fields, and made entire governments collapse from the mere rumor of it. Yet the humans drank it like water. On the planet Vera, in the great research dome of the All-Mind Assembly, scientists from 10 different species worked around the clock, trying to understand the impossible. They wore suits of steel and light. Their fingers moved faster than wind. Their eyes were machines. Their minds were pure logic. They studied human DNA. They ran models of internal function. They grew human organs in labs. They simulated the interaction of Hydrex 9 with blood cells. They used machines that could map every molecule. The results made no sense. Hydrex 9 should have burned them, should have shattered their organs, should have melted their nervous systems, but instead, it passed through without a trace. Even stranger, in many tests, the humans seemed stronger after drinking it. Their hearts beat steadier, their muscles performed better, their brains fired faster. The leading scientist, a Thuan named Relvik, stared at the final scan of a human liver after a full intake of Hydrex 9. It was not just alive, it was glowing. He leaned back and whispered to himself, they were built for this. Across the stars, other thinkers began asking different questions. Was Hydrex 9 really a weapon, or was it something else entirely? Was it possible that the Creel had not created it, but only discovered it, that maybe this liquid existed before, that maybe it came from somewhere older, somewhere deeper? The theory was wild, but humans gave it weight. On Earth, in old mountain ranges, scientists began finding strange wells, pools of water deep in the ground, with similar properties to Hydrex 9, not as deadly, not as strong, but close. The Creel refused to believe it. They declared all human reports fake. They called it manipulation, trickery, lies, but the evidence kept coming. Soon, an independent lab from the Avian Coalition confirmed it. They had found traces of ancient Hydrex compounds in the human planet's core. Samples buried for millions of years. The Creel were silent after that. The question changed again. It was no longer why didn't it work now. It was what are the humans really? Whispers filled black halls and deep stations, whispers that maybe humans were not just survivors, maybe they were built different, made different, maybe something in the universe had shaped them with purpose. In the library of Tharn, an ancient AI known as Voice Beyond counted over 600 recorded anomalies in human biology, from their ability to walk in low oxygen to their tolerance for heat and cold to their reaction to stress and damage. No other species had such range, such flexibility. A Jarn philosopher spoke on a broadcast watched by 3 trillion minds. He said the universe made many things, but in humans, it made something wild, a shape that does not break, a fire that drinks ice. Meanwhile, on Earth, companies grew rich from hydrofuel factories, doubled their output. New flavors came each week. Merchandise spread through the stars, cups, shirts, helmets, even music discs with hydrofuel logos and rhythms that matched human heartbeats. Alien children wore hydrofuel packs for costumes. They pretended to drink and roar like humans. They laughed and screamed and told stories of human warriors who drank liquid death and smiled through the fire. On the trading station Glaxus 9, a bar called the Rusted Fong began serving a drink they called Human Pulse. It was not real Hydrex 9, just a mix of bitter herbs and sharp salts, but the point was not the taste. It was the idea of humans as something beyond fear. The Creole High Command grew quiet, their fleets still floated, their weapons still waited, but the power had shifted not by battle, but by belief. They held a private council, their leaders cloaked in darkness, whispers only, no recordings, no screens. The question they faced was no longer scientific, it was strategic. If humans were immune to Hydrex 9, what else were they immune to? If humans could turn death into drink, what else could they change? Could they eat plasma, breathe poison, sleep in fire? They considered new plans, new weapons, new research, but even as they spoke, they knew Hydrex 9 was never just about damage. It was about fear, and that fear no longer belonged to the Creole. It now belonged to the ones who drank it. The humans back on Earth, in the capital city of the Terran Federation, a museum opened its newest exhibit, a glass chamber filled with old Creole delivery bombs, the same type used to deploy Hydrex 9 in war. Children walked through the room with wide eyes, not in terror, but in wonder. They pressed buttons that showed videos of Captain Mora's council speech. They played games where they had to scan liquids for danger. They bought drinks from vending machines labeled Hydrex Original and Galaxy Grape. Outside the museum, a statue stood. Talleth showed a human figure holding a bottle high in one hand, the other hand open, and peace. The plaque read, "We drank what they feared, and we chose peace." Not far away, Ambassador Krellin, now retired, sat in a quiet park. He watched children play, he watched birds fly, he held a bottle in his hand. He did not drink, but he understood humans were not monsters. They were not gods, they were not machines. They were the answer the universe did not expect, and they were just getting started. The Creole once ruled space through fear. They were not the strongest or the fastest, but they controlled what others feared most: weapons that killed silently, tools that left no mark, plans that broke minds before bodies. Hydrex 9 had been there. Crown, a liquid born from cold minds and cruel hearts. It had no fire or roar, no explosion or echo. It whispered death with every drop, and the galaxy bowed. But now the humans stood with bottles in their hands, and the Creole could feel the silence shift. The news moved faster than any ship, from the rich towers of Sol Prime to the deep mines of Browl Sector, from the forest worlds of the Avian to the gas cities of the Thuan. Aliens whispered the same line again and again. The humans drink it. Markets changed. Old traders dumped black boxes of Hydrex 9 into space stations, rewrote laws. Signs that once warned of instant death were removed or laughed at. A few daring smugglers tried to sell real Hydrex 9 to collectors, but the price dropped. Like a falling moon, what once was forbidden was now a flavor on Earth. In a quiet warehouse outside New London, a startup company called Fluid Edge opened its doors. Their first product was simple bottled Hydrex 9 with a twist of lemon and mint. They sold out in 5 days. People lined up across cities. Not just humans, some aliens came too, daring, foolish, curious. The results were never good. One Drex ambassador tried to match his human friend drink for drink. He collapsed after half a cup. The medics saved him, but he could no longer look at water the same way. On the station, Arnos 12, an avian scholar, bought a case of hydro fuel as a gift for his human assistant. He asked for a sample. He took a single drop. He woke up 3 days later with wings twitching and memories missing. Even with the risks, the legend of the drink grew. People began calling Hydrex 9 by a new name, human fire, not because it burned, but because it lived in them, and only them. In the Creole command halls, plans changed. Meetings grew tense. Old commanders whispered of failure, of weakness, of something worse than defeat, loss of fear. The Creole had no answers. Their greatest weapon, now a joke. Children across the galaxy made games out of it, pretending to drink from toy bottles and laugh like humans. Cartoons showed brave human captains sipping Hydrex 9 before battle. Comics told stories of ancient beasts defeated not by weapons, but by a man with a bottle and a smile. On a trade route near the edge of KVA space, a pirate ship tried to capture a human freighter. They boarded fast, blasters ready, voices shouting, but inside they found no soldiers, only crates, thousands of crates, each one marked with the hydro fuel logo. The pirate leader laughed until one of the crates broke and the scent filled the air. It was the scent of the drink, the scent of the weapon. The pirate crew froze. They knew what it was. They backed away. Whispers ran like fire through the deck. One young pirate asked what kind of cargo Is this the human pilot stepped forward, a small woman with calm eyes. She held a bottle, took a sip, then said, "The kind that keeps us going." The pirates left fast. No shots, no loot, only fear. Stories like that spread not because of violence, but because of what they meant. The Creole heard every tale, and with each one their control slipped further. They tried to build a new weapon, Hydrex 10, thicker, hotter, more deadly. They tested it on captured drones. It melted steel, it cracked walls, it tore through air. Then they tested it on a human subject. He was a volunteer, a soldier from Earth, name classified, history unknown. They dropped one full dose into his system, expecting screams, expecting death. He blinked, laughed, then asked for food. The Creole scientist, recording the session, dropped his tablet and walked away. He did not return to the lab again. Word reached the Galactic Council. Hydrex 10, no effect. The council did not meet formally, but the message was clear. The age of fear was over across many planets. Old bunkers filled with Hydrex 9 were opened, the liquid drained into processing tanks, then sold to Earth at discount prices. The humans did not mock. They welcomed the supply, turned it into energy, medicine, fuel for deep space ships. A group of engineers discovered that Hydrex 9, when filtered through a human-designed system, could power small warp engines for twice as long as standard fuel. What was once death now lit the stars on the edge of Earth's solar system. A new station was built called Emberlight, made by humans, powered by hydrofuel. Open to all aliens came some curious, some skeptical, some hopeful. Inside, they found peace, they found learning, they found walls decorated with images of unity. One wall showed the evolution of Hydrex 9, from weapon to fear to bottle to beacon. Visitors could even try simulated drinks, virtual tastings with no risk, to understand, not to suffer. Ambassador Krellin visited once. He walked the halls in silence, tried the simulation, watched children play a game called Sip and Shield, then left without a word. Later, he wrote a book titled The Fire We Feared. It became the most read text in 50 sectors. Back on the Creole homeworld, statues of old scientists were taken down, not in anger, but in shame. They had built a god of fear only to see it tamed by laughter. A young Creole engineer stood before the last statue. He placed a bottle at its base, then whispered, "We tried to make power, they made peace," and he walked away. In the sky above, a freighter passed, leaving a trail of blue light. In its side, one image, a human hand holding a bottle. Underneath, 3 words: stronger through change. Deep inside the ancient vaults of the Creole High Core, long after the fall of Hydrex 9's terror, the last circle of war sat in a cold chamber of black steel and humming light. They no longer wore the red armor of victory, they wore the gray robes of worry. Their eyes dim, their voices low, their claws resting on empty plans. The chamber once echoed with shouts of conquest, now it whispered with fear. One by one they spoke, not of humans as enemies, but as mysteries. Commander Sock, who once led fleets that broke stars, now asked, what else can they turn into strength? What other weapons will lose meaning in their hands? Advisor Threen, who designed the acid storms of the Dren campaign, wondered if humans even understood what they were becoming. No answer came across the galaxy. The Creole message was the same: hide Hydrex 9. Forget Hydrex 9. Never speak of Hydrex 9. But it was too late. The humans did not hide it. They did not erase it. They did not treat it like a monster. They treated it like something conquered, something studied, something transformed. That was the real threat, not their ships, not their weapons, not their numbers. It was their ability to turn death into usefulness. The galaxy had seen strong species before: the Drex with their armor, the Avian with their speed, the Varn with their mind links. But none could turn fear into fuel. The humans did, and they did it with a smile. On the world of Ralvec, where once Hydrex 9 was used to break a rebellion, a human medical team arrived, not to conquer, not to control, but to clean. They walked through poison valleys wearing simple suits, carrying strange tools. They sampled the soil, filtered the air, spoke to locals, and after 2 weeks they returned the land not burned, not broken, but growing again. The Ralvec survivors did not know how to thank them. One elder offered her family stone to the lead doctor. He smiled and said, "Keep it, plant something on it." They did, and the flowers never stopped blooming. That story reached the stars not through news, but through hearts, because it meant the humans did not just survive the weapon, they healed what it had broken. On the trade hub of Vosk Ring, where 10,000 species met each day, a debate took place in the central hall. The question was simple: should Hydrex 9 be allowed as trade, not as a weapon, but as a tool? The debate lasted 5 solar cycles. Voices rose, fists slammed, tears fell. Then the humans spoke. A small woman named Eli Cross from Earth's Agritech Division stood before the crowd. She was not a soldier, she was not rich, she was not famous, but she carried a seed in one hand and a vial of purified Hydrex 9 in the other. She placed them on the table and said, "One makes life, the other protects. It both are part of us now." And then she left the room. The vote passed. Hydrex 9 was no longer illegal. It was now labeled as a controlled resource, dangerous to most, useful to some, and just like that, a weapon became a product back on Earth. In the halls of learning, young humans studied Hydrex 9 not as poison, but as potential. They ran tests, they wrote papers, they asked questions like, can it clean engines? Can it fight disease? Can it store energy? And often the answer was yes. Old Creel war generals watched these reports in silence. They saw their darkest creation reborn in human hands, brighter, lighter, safer. They saw the humans take pain and give back progress. It shattered something inside them. Some retired, some vanished, a few came to Earth seeking answers. One such, General Valkin, once known as the Iron Storm, arrived in secret. He walked the markets. He saw bottles of hydro fuel sold beside fruit and books. He watched children sip it before sports. He entered a learning center, sat in the back, listened to a lecture. The teacher, a boy no older than 20, spoke of molecular change, of hope in hard places, of science as a way forward, not backward. Valkin felt something crack in his chest. He left behind his battle medallion on the desk. No name, no note, just a sign. Even the old can learn elsewhere. Human space grew. New ships, new stations, new allies, not through war, through trust. Hydrex 9 became a bridge, a story, a lesson. The Council of Elders on Yulon 3 changed their star maps. They no longer marked Earth as other, they marked it as origin, because what the humans had done was not destroy a weapon, they had reshaped its meaning, and that was more powerful than any bomb. The Creel sent one last message, a request, simple, quiet, teach us. And Earth responded. They opened their labs, shared their data, sent doctors, sent builders, sent peace, not as victors, but as partners. They knew what fear had done to the galaxy, and they chose something else. In the center of the Terran knowledge arc, a monument was placed, clear, crystal-shaped like a bottle. Inside it, a swirl of frozen Hydrex 9. At its base, a line written in every language known to the stars: fear is a liquid, so is change. On the edge of the galaxy, where cold stars hang like forgotten lanterns and dark space whispers old stories, a signal passed from one beacon to another, carrying a message written not in war codes, but in the universal symbols of peace and science and hope. It was a message from Earth. The signal reached deep space colonies, stations floating in gas clouds, ships buried under years of silence, even ruins left behind by ancient species lost to time. The message was always the same: Hydrex 9 is no longer a weapon, it is now a chapter, a lesson, a start. At the Terran Historical Center, where every major event of galactic impact was recorded, a new wing was added, simple in design, bright and light, open to all. It was called the Chamber of Change. Inside the main room, a large sculpture rose from the floor, shaped like a rising wave caught in time, made from layered glass and bonded minerals harvested from 10 different systems. Its center glowed with a steady blue light, the color of Hydrex 9. Around the chamber floated hollow screens, showing moments from the journey: the first use, the fear it caused, the human response, the first taste, the transformation. Each screen held no narration, only sounds from those who lived it: the cries of the first Creel victims, the laughter of the human pilot drinking it, the quiet gasp of a Drex child seeing her first bottle. At the far end of the chamber, a wall of handprints grew day by day, human, alien, old, young. Each hand marked someone who contributed to the shift: scientists, builders, healers, even former warriors who chose to teach instead of fight. Among them was the print of Eli Cross, the woman who brought a seed and a vial to a room of leaders. Her handprint pulsed with soft gold light, not because of power, but because of the choice she made. Beyond Earth, in distant sectors, new uses for Hydrex 9 bloomed. One moon colony used it to grow plants in salt soil, another mixed it into cooling systems for faster data transfer. A starship powered by a Hydrex core broke the record for outer orbit travel. Each success rewrote part of history, and every success carried a strange kind of echo, not just of the past, but of what could have been, because everyone knew, had the humans responded with fire, had they met death with death, had they turned Hydrex 9 into a new bomb, the story would have ended very differently. Instead, they had chosen curiosity. They had asked why, they had looked deeper, and they found something new in the avian sky cities. Young flyer squads trained with humans, drinking diluted hydro fuel to test balance and breath. They called it the trial of Flamond. The Drex border world's healing pods used filtered Hydrex 9 to clean infection faster than ever. The patients called it fire water and thanked Earth for sharing. Even on Creel Prime, where once Hydrex 9 was born, a new lab opened under human guidance. They studied safe energy, not fear, not pain, and in the center of that lab, a memorial stood, not of victory, but of change. A simple line etched in stone: what we made to destroy now helps us live. Children read it on school trips. They touched the stone, asked questions, and were told the full story. No shame, no pride, just truth. Back on Earth, new generations grew up hearing tales of the blue bottle. Some thought it a myth, some thought it magic, but most knew it was real, and they treated it with care. Hydrex 9 became more than a resource. It became a symbol, not of power, but of perspective, because the galaxy had seen many weapons, but few who could unmake them. One day, in a quiet sector near the collapsed starfields, a strange object drifted toward a human explorer ship. It was old, made of metal and bone, covered in glyphs not seen in thousands of years. Inside, a message encoded in pulses, barely readable: we feared you, we saw your fire, and thought you were like us, but you drank the storm and gave us peace. Thank you. The ship captain read it, paused, then saved the message in the public archives under the title "The Fire We Shared Across the Stars." More signals like it arrived, some from living species, others from machines, even from forgotten probes. They all spoke of the same thing: a weapon made to kill a people who drank it, a change no one expected. And still, the humans explored, still they built, still they asked, what else can we change? What else can we heal? The Council of Galactic Cooperation, formed in the wake of the Hydrex shift, declared an annual day of remembrance, not for the victims, not for the fear, but for the choice. They called it Liquid Dawn. Every cycle species across systems held ceremonies, lit blue candles, poured harmless drops of hydro fuel into fountains, told stories of what was and what could have been. It became the one shared holiday in a galaxy of difference. On that day, no war was fought, no ships fired, no walls rose, only connection. And Earth, once seen as small, once doubted, once feared, now stood as the quiet center of it all, not through conquest, but through transformation. In a quiet field on the edge of Earth's first Hydrex processing plant, a garden grew, maintained by volunteers, open to all. Each flower bore a name, each name told a piece of the story. A family lost a scientist, found a child healed, and at the very center, a stone bench held a bottle sealed, untouched, glowing blue in the sunlight above it, carved in 10 languages. They gave us fear, we gave back life, and the wind carried the scent of mint and lemon.